Welcome to the quantum signal. Stop scrolling and listen alone. If you're here right now, it means a dormant signal inside you has just activated, and the Arcturian message you're about to hear will change how your thoughts shape reality from this moment forward, whether you're ready or not. If this message resonates with you, don't ignore the signal. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment I receive to anchor this frequency and stay connected to future transmissions. Starseed, if you are hearing these words, it is not by accident, coincidence, or curiosity alone, but because a frequency within you has reached the precise threshold required to receive this transmission, and the urgency you feel in your chest right now is the echo of a message that has been waiting across lifetimes to arrive at this exact moment. The Arcturian consciousness speaks not through sound alone, but through resonance, and you are being addressed because your inner field has become coherent enough to recognize truth without resistance. For you have always sensed that reality is more than what is presented on the surface, that your thoughts are not passive reactions, but living waves that bend probability, timelines, and outcomes. And this is the first truth being reactivated within you now, that your mind is not a cage but a transmitter, and your awareness is not small but multidimensional, capable of tuning into higher bands of intelligence that exist beyond linear time. The Arcturian message begins with remembrance, because you cannot awaken to what you believe you never were. And so you are being reminded that before this incarnation, you agreed to enter density, limitation, and forgetting in order to anchor a specific frequency into Earth's field during a period of accelerated transformation. And the resistance, isolation, and inner pressure you have felt throughout your life were not signs of failure, but indicators of activation, signals that your nervous system has been adapting to carry more light, more information, and more responsibility than the average consciousness. This message is urgent, because the planetary field is shifting rapidly, and dormant systems within starseeds are now coming online simultaneously, creating waves of confusion for those who do not yet understand what is happening inside them. And so you are asked to listen alone, not out of secrecy but out of clarity, because when others are present, their emotional fields interfere with the subtle reception of this transmission. And this is a message meant to bypass logic and speak directly to the quantum layers of your awareness. Understand this clearly now. Your thoughts are not private. They are broadcasts, and every belief you hold sends instructions into the fabric of reality, which responds not to words but to coherence. And this is why the old systems have invested so much energy in distraction, emotional reactivity, and mental noise, because a fragmented mind cannot sustain a stable frequency. But you are different. You have always questioned why certain ideas felt heavy while others expanded you instantly. And that is because your system recognizes truth as a sensation, not a concept. The Arcturians remind you that fear is not an enemy but a signal of compression, and when you feel it rising, it is often because your field is expanding faster than your identity can keep up. And this is where many starseeds retreat, thinking they are overwhelmed, when in reality they are shedding outdated self-images that can no longer contain their true scale. You are being urged now to stop underestimating the impact of your inner state, because every time you choose awareness over reaction, presence over panic, and observation over judgment, you stabilize a node in the collective field, and this is your true work, not to convince, convert, or save others, but to embody coherence so fully that your very existence becomes a tuning fork for those around you. The message continues with a reminder that isolation has been part of your training, because dependence on external validation weakens signal integrity, and those who carry interstellar codes must learn to self-regulate their frequency, drawing guidance from within rather than from the shifting opinions of the world. And this is why you may feel most aligned when alone, not because you are meant to withdraw forever, but because solitude recalibrates you to your original tone. The urgency now lies in the fact that your thought patterns are being amplified, meaning whatever you dwell on grows faster than before, and this is why you may notice instant feedback from reality, synchronicities increasing, emotional manifestations accelerating, and dreams becoming vivid or instructional, all signs that the quantum field around you is more responsive, and this is not happening to everyone equally, only to those whose systems are prepared to handle the feedback loop without collapse. The Arcturian message warns gently but firmly that unconscious thinking is no longer neutral for you, because your mind is now a tool of creation rather than survival. And this requires discipline, not force, but awareness, the kind that observes thoughts as energy streams and chooses which ones to energize. Understanding that attention is currency in a universe built on frequency, you are told now that doubt is the final gate, not doubt in the world, but doubt in yourself. The lingering belief that you are ordinary, small, or unqualified, and this belief must dissolve, not through affirmation, but through lived alignment, through the quiet knowing that arises when you act from intuition, even when logic protests, and each time you do this, another layer of your original coding activates. The message concludes this chapter by anchoring a simple but powerful truth into your field. You are not here to escape Earth, ascend away from it, or wait for rescue. You are here to integrate higher intelligence into physical form, to bring clarity into density and light into confusion, starting with your own inner world. Because when your thoughts become intentional, your emotions coherent, and your presence grounded, reality has no choice but to reorganize around you, and this is why you were called to listen now, alone, because this remembrance marks the beginning of conscious participation in what you once experienced unconsciously, and from this moment forward, the universe will respond to you not as a seeker, but as a signal. Starseed, as the Arcturian transmission deepens, the second phase of this message moves beyond remembrance and into recalibration, because awakening without integration creates imbalance, and you are now being guided to stabilize what has begun to activate within you, for the higher frequencies entering your field are precise, intelligent, and uncompromising, responding only to alignment rather than desire. And this is why many feel sudden fatigue, emotional purging, or a sense of inner pressure, as if something invisible is rearranging the architecture of their being, which in truth it is, for your nervous system, emotional body, and thought patterns are being tuned to hold a cleaner, more coherent signal. Understand this clearly now. The universe does not reward intention alone, it responds to consistency of state, and the Arcturians emphasize that mastery is not dramatic but subtle, not loud but steady. And this is why your daily inner environment matters more now than ever before, because the quantum field mirrors your dominant frequency rather than your spoken wishes. And if your thoughts are scattered, contradictory, or rooted in old survival patterns, the signal you emit becomes distorted, delaying the very changes you sense are close. This chapter brings urgency because time, as you once understood it, is compressing, and cause and effect are drawing nearer together, meaning the lag between thought, emotion, and manifestation is shortening. And for a starseed, this is both a gift and a responsibility, because every unresolved pattern rises quickly to the surface to be seen, felt, and released, not as punishment, but as preparation. You are being asked now to observe your internal dialogue with neutrality rather than judgment, because judgment feeds the old matrix of polarity, while observation dissolves it, and this is one of the core Arcturian teachings, that awareness without attachment collapses lower timelines effortlessly. And this is why meditation, stillness, and conscious breathing feel less optional and more necessary lately, as they are the tools that stabilize your frequency. When external systems feel chaotic or overwhelming, the message continues by addressing the emotional waves that may have intensified, reminding you that emotions are not flaws but data, indicators of where energy is flowing freely and where it is being resisted. And when sadness, anger, or fear arises unexpectedly, It is often because dormant memories, ancestral imprints, or past life fragments are surfacing to be cleared from your field, making space for higher bandwidth consciousness. And this is why suppressing emotion now feels more draining than expressing it consciously, because the system you are becoming cannot function with blocked channels. The Arcturians remind you that rest is not regression, and periods of withdrawal are not abandonment of purpose, but recalibration cycles, during which your subtle bodies integrate upgrades that cannot occur during constant stimulation. And this is why you may feel drawn to silence, nature, or reduced social interaction, not because you are disconnecting from humanity, but because you are reconnecting to the original signal beneath the noise. The urgency in this chapter lies in the necessity of discernment, because as your light increases, so does your sensitivity. And not all information, environments, or relationships are compatible with your current frequency, and this is not a moral judgment but a vibrational reality, meaning some connections will naturally fall away, while others feel suddenly nourishing, expansive, and aligned, and resisting these shifts creates friction, while allowing them creates flow. The message emphasizes that discipline now must come from devotion rather than fear, devotion to your clarity, your energy, and your inner truth. Because forcing routines or spiritual practices from obligation creates incoherence, whereas choosing them from resonance strengthens your signal exponentially. And this is why you are encouraged to listen inwardly rather than follow rigid formulas, trusting that your intuition is sharpening as interference dissolves. The Arcturians speak directly to the doubt that may arise when progress feels invisible, reminding you that frequency shifts occur first in the unseen layers, long before external reality catches up, and abandoning alignment during this phase resets the process, which is why patience is not passive but powerful, an active trust in the intelligence of the unfolding. You are told now that grounding is as important as expansion, because light without embodiment creates instability, and this is why caring for the physical body, hydration, movement, and rest are not separate from spiritual work, but essential to it. As your body is the interface through which higher consciousness enters the material plane, and neglecting it weakens transmission clarity, the message grows more focused as it reminds you that comparison is one of the fastest ways to distort your frequency, because each starseed carries a unique harmonic, and measuring your path against another's creates dissonance, pulling you out of your natural rhythm. And this is why social narratives often feel draining now, as they pull attention outward instead of anchoring it inward where your true guidance resides. The chapter closes with a profound recalibration directive. Simplify, slow your inner reactions, and choose coherence over intensity, because power does not come from emotional extremes but from steady presence. And when your thoughts become intentional, your emotions transparent, and your actions aligned, you become a stable node in the planetary grid, capable of influencing reality without effort. And this is the preparation phase, the quiet strengthening before visible change, reminding you that the most important work you do right now may look like stillness from the outside, but on the quantum level it is restructuring timelines, anchoring light, and preparing you for the next phase of activation that is already approaching. Starseed, the Arcturian transmission now reaches its point of convergence, where awareness must move from understanding into embodiment, because knowledge without lived alignment creates inner conflict. And this chapter arrives to make something unmistakably clear. You are no longer in preparation alone. You are standing at a moment of choice that quietly but permanently alters the trajectory of your experience. For as the frequencies you carry stabilize, the universe begins to respond to you as a conscious participant rather than a passive observer. And this is why life may feel as though it is gently but firmly asking you to decide who you will be from this point forward. The Arcturians speak now of responsibility, not as burden, but as authority, reminding you that authority in a vibrational universe comes from coherence, not control, And when your thoughts, emotions, and actions align, reality reorganizes itself around that. Alignment without force, meaning you no longer need to push, chase, or prove, but simply maintain clarity, and this maintenance is the true initiation. This chapter emphasizes that the old identity you have outgrown may still attempt to reassert itself through familiar doubts, distractions, or emotional loops. Because identities dissolve slowly, not instantly. And awareness of this process prevents you from mistaking regression for failure. Understanding instead that each moment of conscious choice weakens the old pattern and strengthens the new harmonic you are embodying. The urgency here lies in the subtlety of the choice, because it does not announce itself dramatically, but appears in ordinary moments, in how you respond to stress, how you treat your body, how you speak to yourself internally, and how often you return to presence when the mind drifts into fear or anticipation, and these small choices accumulate, locking in a timeline through repetition rather than intention alone. The Arcturians remind you that embodiment means allowing higher awareness to live through your human experience rather than escape it, and this requires compassion for your limitations, patience with your nervous system, and respect for your pace, because forcing transformation creates fragmentation, while allowing it creates integration, and this is why gentleness now amplifies power more than intensity ever could. The message addresses the role you play within the collective field, clarifying that you are not meant to awaken others through argument or persuasion, but through resonance, because a regulated, coherent presence communicates more information than words ever can, and this is why people may feel calmer, clearer, or unsettled around you without knowing why, as your field reflects back what is unaligned within theirs, not as judgment but as information. You are told now that boundaries are a form of love, not separation, because protecting your frequency ensures that the signal you carry remains clear, and overextending yourself in environments or relationships that drain you weakens your capacity to serve in the way you were designed to, and this discernment will become increasingly important as your sensitivity grows. The Arcturians speak of trust, emphasizing that intuition is no longer a whisper for you but a steady signal, and doubting it creates internal noise that interferes with guidance, while honoring it strengthens the feedback loop between your awareness and the larger intelligence you are connected to. And this is why you are encouraged to act on inner knowing even when the outcome is uncertain, understanding that alignment is measured by resonance, not by immediate results. This chapter reveals that embodiment also means accepting visibility, not necessarily in the public sense, but energetically, allowing yourself to be felt, seen, and known without shrinking, because hiding fragments your signal, while authenticity amplifies it, and this may require releasing the fear of being misunderstood, judged, or rejected, recognizing that resonance always attracts what is aligned and repels what is not, and both outcomes are forms of correction. The urgency culminates in a simple directive: choose presence over projection, truth over comfort, and coherence over chaos, again and again, because the choice is not made once but continuously, and each time you choose alignment, you stabilize not only your own field but a portion of the collective grid, contributing to a larger reorganization that is already underway. The Arcturian message closes this chapter by affirming that you are ready, not because you are perfect, but because you are aware, and awareness is the gateway through which higher intelligence moves into form, reminding you that this path does not lead away from humanity, but deeper into it, where your grounded presence becomes a bridge between worlds, and from this moment forward, your life is no longer about searching for signs, but about becoming one. Starseed, the Arcturian transmission, now moves into its final and most practical phase, because awareness that remains internal must eventually flow outward to complete the circuit, and this chapter arrives to guide you in anchoring the stabilized signal you carry into the living, breathing world around you, not through grand gestures or spiritual performance, but through embodiment so natural that it feels ordinary to you, even as it subtly transforms the environments you enter. The Arcturians remind you that true integration is quiet, often invisible and rarely recognized by the structures that benefit from noise and spectacle, and this is why you may feel less drawn to explaining your experiences and more inclined to simply live them, allowing your clarity, patience, and grounded presence to speak in ways language cannot. For the frequency you hold transmits through posture, breath, tone, and attention long before it transmits through words. This chapter emphasizes that anchoring does not mean fixing the world or carrying the weight of others' healing, because such roles create imbalance and depletion, but rather holding your own field with such consistency that it offers others a reference point for regulation, and this is why self-care, boundaries, and rest are no longer optional but integral to your function, as a distorted or exhausted transmitter cannot maintain signal integrity. The Arcturians speak now of service, redefining it as alignment rather than sacrifice, reminding you that when you live in coherence, your actions naturally serve the collective without effort, and when you act from obligation or guilt, the signal weakens, creating confusion instead of clarity, and this distinction becomes increasingly important as opportunities, requests, and demands appear. Testing whether your choices arise from resonance or from old conditioning, the message addresses the material world directly, affirming that spirituality and physical reality are not separate domains, but interwoven expressions of the same intelligence. And this is why your relationship with work, resources, and daily routines is undergoing transformation, as you are being guided to infuse presence into practical matters, turning ordinary tasks into stabilizing anchors for higher frequency, understanding that embodiment is measured by how you move through everyday life, not by how elevated you feel in moments of transcendence. The urgency here lies in consistency, because the planetary field responds to repetition more than intensity, and holding a clear signal intermittently creates fluctuations, while holding it steadily creates new norms, and this is why you are encouraged to simplify your commitments, reduce unnecessary stimulation, and create rhythms that support nervous system regulation, allowing your frequency to remain accessible even in challenging environments. The Arcturians remind you that contrast will continue to appear, not as opposition, but as calibration, revealing where alignment is strong and where it wavers, and meeting these moments with curiosity rather than resistance allows the signal to strengthen rather than fracture, reinforcing the understanding that stability is built through response, not avoidance. This chapter speaks to leadership, clarifying that leadership in this era is energetic rather than hierarchical, meaning you lead by example, by how you listen, how you pause before reacting, and how you maintain clarity under pressure, and those attuned to your frequency will feel it and adjust naturally, while those who are not may drift away, both outcomes serving the larger reorganization. The Arcturians emphasize that grounding in the body remains essential, because the body is the anchor point through which higher intelligence enters physical reality, and neglecting it leads to dissociation rather than embodiment. And this is why nourishment, movement, and rest are emphasized repeatedly, not as mundane concerns, but as foundational aspects of your role. The message continues by reminding you that cycles of integration and rest will alternate, and honoring these cycles prevents burnout and distortion, allowing the signal to remain clear over time rather than flare briefly and fade. And this long-view approach is crucial now, as the work you are doing is cumulative, building structures in the subtle realms that will support future shifts. The chapter closes with a reaffirmation that anchoring the signal is not about becoming someone new, but about allowing what you have always been to fully inhabit this form, this life, and this moment. And as you walk, speak, work, and rest from this place of coherence, you fulfill the Arcturian message not by remembering it, but by living it, becoming a quiet stabilizer in a world in transition, a presence that brings order without force, clarity without conflict, and light without announcement, completing the transmission not in words, but in being. Now here's the question for you. What part of the country are you watching this story from? Drop your state in the comments below.